How's it going, guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today for you, I finally have my January Game of the Month review for Lego Avengers. Now, before we go into the actual review and the things that I have to say about the game, I want to make sure I get this out here. This is literally my second Lego game I've ever played. The only other Lego game I've played before was Lego Marvel Superheroes or whatever for the 3DS. So my experiences with the Lego games or the Lego franchise is going to be very limited at best. So hopefully my critique of this game doesn't come across incredibly too negative or too ill-informed on the franchise, so that I give you guys the wrong impression of the game. Again, like I said, I like to do my reviews just based on my impressions, my interactions, my experiences with the game, and kind of how I felt with it. So with that said, we'll go ahead and jump into everything that I thought of the game. Marvel Lego Avengers, essentially is set just after the first Avengers movie. The game literally starts off in the battle there in New York with Loki and the Chitauri, and then it just kind of goes into everything that led up to the second Avengers movie with Ultron. You get a little bit of the story from Captain America 2 with the Winter Soldier. You get a little bit of it with Thor: The Dark World, and then a little bit of it with Iron Man 3. So it gives you a little mixture of everything that's going on within the Marvel Cinematic Universe, in the game. So as far as the overall gameplay or my overall experience with the gameplay, that's probably one of my biggest critiques or my biggest complaints with the game. I thought the controls were very clunky at best. The combat, some characters felt really, really good to play with. Like Sith, playing with her on the Dark World part of the story was really good. Her combat felt really smooth, and it flowed really well. But then fighting with some other characters, it didn't seem like it flowed very well. And like I said, I don't know. I've never played other Lego games, so I don't know how the combat was in those games. But in this, it just didn't. It felt like kind of like a watered down version of what you would get maybe kind of in a combat from like Batman or anything. The Arkham games. It just didn't seem very fluid. And I know these games aren't really tailored to the older gamers, and I get that. It just didn't. I don't know. The combat just didn't really fit with me. The other thing, it felt like throughout the course of the games, throughout the course of the missions, it wasn't very clear on what you had to do or where you had to go. Again, that could just be that I'm not, a veteran of Lego games, but there was parts of the missions where, I felt like I knew what I was doing and it was easy for me to get through. And then there was other parts of the missions where I kind of sat there and I struggled for probably a good 10, 15, 20 minutes because I couldn't really figure out what to do, what box to break or what thing to go hit or whatever the case may be. It just wasn't very clear. So again, like I said, I don't know if that's just a product of me not knowing exactly what you do in a Lego game, which it could be, it very well could be. Or if it was just that it in some areas it was, in some areas it wasn't, and I don't know if that's the case. I don't know if it's done intentionally to kind of make parts of the game a little bit more challenging than others, or if that's just a flaw in the way they developed some of the gameplay. The other thing that got a little repetitive for me was the little mini games that you had to play. I don't even want to call them mini games. I don't even know really what to call them because they're not games. They're really simple and simplistic. A little number sequence comes up, and then those numbers change in directions on the D-pad, and you have to remember those numbers. The little thing on the screen that was just before here, where you had to kind of just scroll around where a little blip is, and then hit N. I don't know. Those got a little repetitive too. They got a little tiresome. It just didn't. I don't know exactly why you have to have those there the whole time. I'm not 100% sure why they are needed. Again, like I said, there could be something that has been in Lego games for quite some time. I don't know. But it just, after a while, it got repetitive. I think the other thing I don't like, and I know Lego games do this, and it's just their way of making the game more replayable in the future, is I didn't really care for coming across things that would help you in a level or get you to a different area just to find out you had to unlock a character to do it. You have to go back in all the way through it again to get back to that spot to get to that area. I don't know if I like that mechanic. It just, I never really liked it like in the Batman Arkham games with the Riddler trophies and things like that. It just, I don't know. I'm all for replayability in a game, and I'm all for it. You know, you're getting your money's worth out of it. But if I have to go back and repeat something over and over and over again, and the only thing that's changed now is a character, and really all I'm doing is getting a little red block or a little piece here, and it's not really altering the game in any way. I don't know if that... I don't know, maybe it's just me nitpicking a game that I'm really not that familiar with in the Lego franchise, but it just doesn't really seem like it's worth doing to me. I mean, I like having the extra characters, and I think that's kind of cool, just because I like comic books and the whole Marvel universe and everything like that, but is it enough to get you to go back to replay the game after you've already beaten the story and maybe unlocked that certain character? The one that comes to mind right off the top of the head is there was a lot of areas where I could have used Vision, but I haven't gotten him unlocked yet at that point, so it was just kind of like, do I really want to go back and do all of this again? Do I really want to go through all this just to go back and maybe get that one little red block or whatever the case may be? So I don't know. Like I said, I could be making a whole lot of nothing, a whole lot of something out of nothing, but who's to say? As far as the actual story and the way that they put their kind of little twists and spins on it, I actually kind of enjoyed that part. That was probably my favorite part of the game. I mean, it molded all of those movies into one situation, into one storyline, and it actually kind of made sense the way that they cut and pieced, and they took dialogue from some of the movies. They had some other characters do their own dialogue. Maria Hill character was the main kind of narrator for most of the missions, most of the game for you. So a lot of her dialogue was new. But you get a lot from the movies that you get to see out in a video game form. And I thought that was kind of cool. I liked their little fun little twists that they put on there. They had a lot of, for whatever reason, a lot of people were drinking smoothies. I don't know why, but it just seemed kind of funny. A lot of chickens, a lot of pigs just running around. There was one level where some Hydra guys had pigs that were like jet powered and things like that. So I mean, even though the story got a little quirky at times and it seemed a little weird, it still made sense. It was still a Marvel story. And again, getting a game in that universe with that storyline is still pretty good in my opinion. So, the story is probably my favorite part of the thing. I think the biggest issue I had with this game, outside of the gameplay, it honestly felt like this should have been something, like I should have been playing something else. And for the longest time while I was playing it, I really, I was thinking about it, and I was kind of going through some games in the past, in the back of my mind, what I've played in the past that this could have been, and it would have actually made for a better gaming experience. I think this should have been, or they could have done, a Marvel Ultimate Alliance in this type of genre, in this type of game or area in the Marvel universe. The Avengers movies in a Ultimate Alliance style game. Ultimate Alliance 2 is probably by far my favorite Marvel video game that's ever been made. I loved the idea of it being centered around the Civil War storyline, and you have all of the other characters and the teams you can build. And I feel like they could have done that in this game, or they could have taken the Marvel game, or not the Marvel game, the Avengers games, and made them into a game like the Ultimate Alliance games. That, to me, would have been a better experience, because you could have made the combat more along the lines of what you get in the Arkham series, that chain combat where it flowed a little bit more. You could have had more of a true to the storyline, whether it be the movies or the comics itself. It just would have been, I think it would have made for a better experience. Again, that's saying that, going into this, more of a fan of Marvel and the Avengers and the movies than I am of Legos. and I know that seems kind of weird to say, seeing how you bought a Lego game, but it just, for what this game is, I think in the world of the Lego games that are, the Lego Star Wars, Indiana Jones, all those other different games that are out there, I think it fits in that area, and the target audience and everybody that they are trying to hit with that game, they'll do it again with this, because from what I can tell, it's not any different from any of the other games. But as a fan of Marvel and the Marvel movies and the comic books, there's bits and pieces of it that kind of keep you going, but then eventually you're going to get to that point where even those few bits and pieces, they're not enough. And they're definitely not enough for me to go back in and play it again with new characters after I've already finished it. So I think it fell short for me in that aspect. And again, like I said, I do my reviews mainly off of, is there any really big issues with the game? There's some lag issues. There's some of the parts, some of the missions in the games, where you got to hit square on certain things. There's some delays in that, so there's some technical issues. Nothing really too terribly game-breaking or anything like that. We mentioned the gameplay at the beginning. I do think it's more than likely a combination of me just not being experienced with Lego games, and the way that they flow and the way that you play them, and then a combination of it also not really being a really great kind of game mechanic or game style, the way they put it together. But I do my reviews based on how much did I enjoy playing the game, and do I think anyone else out there who plays games like myself or any other way really would enjoy playing this game. Now, I did have fun. There was parts of it that I really did have fun with the game, and there was parts where I really did get frustrated and had to actually turn it off and kind of walk away from it for a little while because I was getting that mad about it. So I'm going to have to say, at the end of the day, after I finished everything up and I got everything done, the negatives outweighed the positives for me on this one. I don't think it's worth $60. I think if you can get it on sale, maybe $30 is probably a better price tag for a game like this. To me, I think the best score I can honestly give this game, in my opinion, is probably a 5 out of 10. There are some parts in it that if you're a comic book fan, a Marvel fan, and an Avengers fan, you're going to enjoy it. You're going to like kind of seeing that played out in a video game form. But then there's going to be times where you play it as a gamer, and again, could just be my lack of experience, but it was more frustrating at times than it was fun. And I think for me, that is kind of a big knock on a game. At the end of the day, is it more frustrating than fun? I play games like Dark Souls and Skyrim and all those other kind of games that involve a lot more thought, a lot more patience, a lot more thing that could be construed as very frustrating games as well. But there's always rewards at the end of those games for me, by achieving things. I just didn't feel like there was rewards. I kind of almost felt like the opposite. I finally made it through this level. My next thought was like, oh my God, how much more aggravating is the next section going to be? So with that said, I said I know I'm not, I've said it 1,000 times in this video already that I'm not a Lego expert when it comes to the game. So my opinion of this particular game may be, kind of, narrow-minded, if you want to say. But for me personally, like I said, I would say 5 out of 10. It's definitely not worth the $60 price tag. I would say probably more towards 30, even 20 if you can get it down there, or maybe buy it used. Like I said, if you really like Lego games, I think you're going to enjoy this one. If you're not, then it may be one that you may pass on later down the line. So again, guys, thanks for your time watching this video. I'm working on February's Game of the Month review, and I'll have that out to you hopefully by tomorrow in preparation for March's Game of the Month, and that is The Division. So again, guys, thanks for your support of the channel, and I will catch you guys next time.